Sophia Bennett never imagined her life could fall this far. 5 years earlier, she had owned one of Tampa's fastest-growing interior design companies. Wealthy clients trusted her, magazines featured her work, and she believed success would last forever. Now she worked as a hospital aide at Clearwater Memorial Hospital, earning just enough to rent a tiny room in an old boarding house. Hard work never bothered her. Humiliation did. Every shift became unbearable because of Patricia Collins, the head nurse. Somehow Patricia had discovered Sophia's past. Not only that she had once been rich, but that she had spent almost 6 years in prison for financial fraud. "Watch your wallets," Patricia often joked loud enough for everyone to hear. People like her never change. The rumor spread through the hospital within days. Some employees believed Patricia. Others simply joined the gossip because it entertained them. Sophia refused to argue. She kept working. She cleaned rooms, helped patients, and avoided conflict. But Patricia wasn't satisfied. Each day she invented another story. "I bet she's hiding money. She's only pretending to be poor. People don't lose everything unless they're guilty." Soon even the friendly nurses stopped talking to Sophia. She felt completely alone. The only person who treated her with kindness was Margaret Carter, an elderly patient recovering from heart surgery. Whenever Margaret's son, Michael Carter, was delayed by work, Sophia stayed after her shift to keep the woman company. She read books, brought fresh flowers from the hospital garden, and never accepted money. "I don't need payment," she told Michael with a gentle smile. "I just know what loneliness feels like." Michael looked at her for a long moment. There was something honest in her eyes. Something that didn't match the woman everyone else described. The following morning, the whispers became louder. As Sophia pushed her cleaning cart through the cardiology wing, conversation stopped the moment she appeared. She had grown used to the silence. What hurt more were the stares. Around noon, Michael arrived carrying a bouquet of white lilies for his mother. Margaret smiled the instant she saw him. "Your friend was here again," she said warmly. "She stayed with me even after her shift ended." Michael looked toward Sophia, who was quietly replacing fresh towels in the room. "Thank you," he said. "You really didn't have to stay." Sophia smiled politely. "Your mother reminds me of someone I wish I'd had." Before Michael could answer, Patricia walked into the room with a forced smile. "Mr. Carter, I hope Sophia hasn't been bothering you." Michael frowned. "Not at all." Patricia sighed dramatically. "I only ask because she has a complicated history." Sophia froze. Margaret's smile disappeared. Patricia continued. "She was convicted of fraud. Almost 6 years in prison. People like that know exactly how to earn trust." The room fell silent. Michael looked directly at Sophia. She expected disgust. Instead, he asked quietly, "Is that true?" Sophia lowered her eyes. "Yes. I went to prison. But I didn't commit the crime." Patricia laughed. "They all say that." Without another word, Sophia picked up her cart and walked out. She refused to let anyone see the tears forming in her eyes. Behind her, Margaret turned to Patricia. "Leave." The head nurse blinked. "I'm only protecting." "I said leave." Patricia left the room without another word. Margaret looked at her son. "I've met dishonest people. That young woman isn't one of them." For the first time, Michael began wondering if everyone at the hospital had judged Sophia far too quickly. Sophia spent the rest of the day pretending nothing had happened. She scrubbed floors, emptied trash bins, and changed bed linens without saying a word. Every laugh echoing through the hallway felt like it was directed at her. When her shift finally ended, Patricia stopped her near the nurse's station. "My office." "Now!" Sophia followed without protest. The door closed behind them. Patricia folded her arms. You embarrassed me in front of an important donor. I didn't say anything disrespectful, Sophia replied calmly. No, but you made me look like a liar. I only told the truth. Patricia's face hardened. The truth? The truth is that this hospital doesn't need ex-convicts pretending to be saints. Sophia took a slow breath. I've worked here for 3 months. I've never been late. I've never stolen anything. I've never treated a patient badly. So why do you hate me? For a moment, Patricia said nothing. Then she leaned closer. Because people like you always fool everyone. My job is to make sure that never happens here. An hour later, Sophia walked out of the hospital carrying a cardboard box with her few belongings. She had been fired. The official reason read, unprofessional conduct and failure to follow workplace policies. Sophia knew it was a lie, but proving it would cost money she didn't have. Dark clouds rolled over Clearwater as heavy rain began to fall. She sat alone on a wooden bench outside the hospital. The cardboard box rested beside her. Everything she owned fit inside it. She stared at the rain until the tears on her face became impossible to distinguish from the drops falling from the sky. For the second time in her life, she had lost everything. Sophia remained on the bench long after the hospital lights began to disappear behind the curtain of rain. She wasn't crying anymore. She simply felt empty. Inside her purse was barely $60. Her rent was due in 4 days. Without a job, she would lose the tiny room that had become the closest thing to a home. She reached for a bottle of sleeping pills. The doctor had prescribed them months earlier after nightmares from prison refused to stop. Her hands trembled. I just need the noise to stop, she whispered. Without thinking, she swallowed several pills. Then several more. Rain soaked her jacket as she leaned back and closed her eyes. Minutes later, distant voices drifted through the storm. Someone's lying on the bench. Call 911. Another voice sounded strangely familiar. Sophia? She tried to open her eyes, but everything blurred together. Strong arms lifted her from the bench. Stay with me, the man pleaded. You'll be okay. She recognized Michael's voice. I wasn't trying, she murmured weakly. I know, he answered. Don't talk. The ambulance arrived within minutes. As paramedics loaded Sophia onto a stretcher, Patricia hurried outside with several nurses. She crossed her arms. Honestly, this doesn't surprise me. Michael turned toward her. His expression had changed completely. Cold. Furious. You think this is funny? I think she's looking for attention, Patricia replied. People with her history always create drama. Michael stepped closer. I've spent enough time around successful people to recognize character. He pointed toward the ambulance. And that woman has more dignity than anyone I've met in this building. Patricia's confident smile disappeared. If anything happens to her, Michael continued quietly, I'll make sure everyone learns exactly how she was treated here. For the first time since becoming head nurse, Patricia looked genuinely afraid. Sophia woke to the steady beep of a heart monitor. The white hospital ceiling slowly came into focus. Her throat felt dry, and her head pounded. A nurse noticed she was awake and smiled. You're lucky, she said softly. Another hour, and those pills could have caused permanent damage. Sophia closed her eyes. I'm sorry. You don't need to apologize to me. A gentle knock came at the door. Michael stepped inside carrying a small bouquet of sunflowers. You scared us, he said. Sophia looked away. I wasn't trying to end my life. I know. I just wanted everything to stop for a while. Michael pulled up a chair. My mother hasn't stopped asking about you. Sophia managed a weak smile. How is she? Much better. She says you're the only person here who treats her like family. Silence filled the room. Finally, Michael spoke again. I heard what Patricia said. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Sophia shook her head. You don't know the whole story. Then tell me. She hesitated. For 6 years, nobody wanted to hear my side. Michael leaned forward. I do. For the first time since leaving prison, Sophia looked into someone's eyes and saw neither pity nor suspicion, only genuine concern. She took a slow breath. My story didn't begin in a courtroom. It began the day I fell in love with the wrong man. I wasn't always poor, Sophia began quietly. 5 years ago, I owned one of the largest interior design firms in Tampa. My adoptive parents built it for nothing. They believed I could run it one day. Michael listened without interrupting. When they passed away, I inherited everything. For a while, life was perfect. Then I met Ryan Brooks. She forced a bitter smile. He was charming. A widower. He had 2 adorable little girls, who instantly called me their friend. He told me they needed a mother. I believed him. Michael folded his hands. You married him. Sophia nodded. Less than a year later. Everyone thought we were the perfect family. He never asked for my money. He even signed a prenuptial agreement saying he wanted nothing if we divorced. I thought that proved he truly loved me. She laughed softly. I was so naive. One summer he convinced me to take the girls on vacation while he stayed home to finish legal paperwork. When I came back, my company was gone. My properties were sold. My bank accounts were empty. Michael frowned. How? I had unknowingly signed a power of attorney. He slipped it into a stack of business documents. I trusted him enough not to read every page. Sophia's voice trembled. By the time I understood what had happened, everything had been transferred. And the police believed I was the one who committed the fraud. They arrested me in front of my employees. Michael sat in stunned silence. So Ryan framed you. Sophia slowly nodded. And the woman who pretended to be his mother turned out to be the real grandmother of those little girls. Their biological mother had been alive all along. It had all been a carefully planned scam. Michael remained silent for several seconds. I've seen people lose businesses, he finally said, but I've never heard of anything like this. Sophia looked down at her hands. It gets worse. Ryan wasn't working alone. The woman I believed was his mother was actually the biological grandmother of the girls. And his real partner was Jessica, their actual mother. Michael frowned. So the children were part of the scam? Sophia nodded sadly. They didn't know. They truly believed I loved them. And I did. Her voice cracked. They called me Mom. I tucked them into bed. I celebrated their birthdays. When I was arrested, Jessica ripped them away from me. Sophia closed her eyes, remembering the painful moment. She smiled and said, Children forget quickly. They'll love their real mother soon enough. Michael clenched his jaw. Did Ryan ever face charges? No. He made sure every document pointed to me. My signature was everywhere. The jury believed I had stolen millions from my own company. And Ryan walked away with everything. The room fell silent again. Finally, Michael stood. I don't believe you're guilty. Sophia looked up in surprise. You barely know me. I know enough. My mother spent years teaching me one lesson. Good people don't stop being good because life becomes cruel. He handed her a business card. When you're discharged, don't worry about finding another job. Sophia stared at the card. Carter Marine Group. Chief Executive Officer. Michael Carter. I think my family could use someone we can actually trust. For the first time in years, Sophia felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. Sophia was discharged 2 days later. She expected to return to her tiny rented room and began another hopeless search for work. Instead, Michael was waiting outside the hospital. "You didn't have to come," she said. "I know. I wanted to." The drive to his mother's estate took less than 30 minutes. The house overlooked Tampa Bay, surrounded by towering oak trees draped with Spanish moss. It wasn't flashy. It felt like a home. Margaret greeted Sophia with a warm hug. "I was afraid you'd refuse." "I almost did," Sophia admitted. Margaret smiled. "Then I'm glad you changed your mind." Michael showed her a small guest cottage behind the main house. "It's yours for as long as you need." Sophia stared at him. "I can't afford this." "You don't have to. I'd rather earn my place." "You will. My mother needs someone she can trust. Keep her company. Help with appointments. Make sure she doesn't overwork herself. That's all." Sophia nodded slowly. "Thank you." That evening, she unpacked everything she owned. It took less than 10 minutes. A few books, several photographs, some clothes, and one small wooden frame. Inside was a faded picture of two little girls smiling at the camera. Emma and Chloe, Ryan's daughters. Sophia brushed away a tear. "I hope you're happy," she whispered. A gentle knock interrupted her thoughts. Margaret entered carrying 2 cups of tea. "I couldn't help noticing the picture." Sophia smiled sadly. "They weren't my daughters, but I loved them as if they were." Margaret sat beside her. "Sometimes the people we choose become more important than the ones we're born to." Sophia looked toward the dark waters of Tampa Bay. For the first time since leaving prison, she wondered if life was finally giving her a second chance. She had no idea. The past wasn't finished with her yet. The next few weeks passed quietly. Sophia settled into a routine she had almost forgotten was possible. Each morning she shared breakfast with Margaret before accompanying her on short walks through the garden overlooking Tampa Bay. In the afternoons they played chess, read novels, or simply talked for hours. For the first time in years, Sophia laughed without forcing herself. Michael noticed. "So," he asked one evening, "are you finally starting to feel at home?" She smiled. "I'm starting to remember who I was before everything happened." Margaret reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "That's the woman I saw the first day we met." Just as peace began to return, unexpected visitors arrived. A tall woman stepped out of a black luxury SUV without waiting to be invited inside. Her expensive clothes couldn't hide the exhaustion on her face. "This is my sister, Victoria," Margaret whispered. "She only visits when she needs something." Victoria walked straight into the living room. "I won't waste anyone's time. I need another loan." Margaret sighed. "I've already paid your debts 3 times this year. This is different. It always is." Sophia quietly stood to leave, but Michael stopped her. "Stay. Your family here." Victoria's eyes narrowed the moment she noticed Sophia. "And who is she?" "Our new companion," Margaret answered calmly. Victoria looked Sophia up and down. "She seems familiar." Sophia felt a chill run through her body. She had never seen the woman before. Yet something about Victoria's smile felt strangely unsettling. As Victoria turned toward the hallway, she accidentally dropped her phone. Sophia bent down to pick it up. The screen lit up for a split second. A family photograph appeared as the wallpaper. Sophia's heart nearly stopped. Standing beside Victoria was Ryan Brooks, the man who had stolen her life. Sophia forced herself to stay calm. It had only been a photograph. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe Ryan represented Victoria in some legal matter. But deep inside, she already knew better. Victoria slipped the phone into her purse without noticing Sophia's reaction. "I'll think about your request," Margaret said firmly. "But I'm not promising anything." Victoria smiled politely, though the expression never reached her eyes. "You've always had a soft heart, Maggie." Before leaving, she glanced at Sophia once more. "I hope we'll get to know each other." The front door closed. Silence filled the house. That evening, Sophia couldn't stop thinking about the picture. Finally, she knocked on Michael's office door. "Do you have a minute?" He looked up from his laptop. "Of course." Sophia hesitated. "Your aunt. What about her? I think I saw someone I know on her phone." Michael frowned. "Who?" "My ex-husband. The man who framed me." Michael's expression changed instantly. "Are you certain?" "I'll never forget his face." He stood and walked to the window. "My aunt has made terrible decisions. But working with a criminal, that's something else." Sophia folded her arms. "I don't want to accuse anyone without proof." Michael nodded. "Neither do I. But if Ryan is anywhere near my family, I need to know why." The next morning, Michael hired a private investigator. Neither of them realized they were already too late. Miles away, Ryan Brooks sat inside an expensive waterfront restaurant in Miami. Across the table sat Victoria. "Everything is going according to plan," she said. Ryan smiled. "And the woman? She has no idea she's living exactly where we wanted her." Victoria leaned closer. "Soon Margaret will change her will. And after that, the Carter fortune will belong to us." Michael wasted no time. Within an hour, he and Sophia were sitting across from attorney Daniel Foster. The lawyer frowned as he examined the insurance documents. "This signature isn't Margaret's. Can you prove it?" Michael asked. Daniel nodded. "With a handwriting expert, yes. But whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing." He placed another document on the desk. "This policy was created only 4 days ago." Sophia looked at the beneficiary section. Her heart skipped a beat. Victoria Hayes, Richard Hayes, and Ryan Brooks. Michael slammed his fist against the table. "My mother has never even met Ryan." Daniel adjusted his glasses. "Legally, that doesn't matter. If Margaret dies before this fraud is uncovered, they'll spend years fighting over the money." Sophia suddenly remembered something. "The pie." Everyone looked at her. "Margaret told me she always bakes Michael's favorite cranberry pie for family celebrations." Daniel slowly nodded. "When is the party?" "This Saturday," Michael answered. Sophia felt cold. "What if they don't plan to wait?" The room fell silent. Michael immediately understood. "They could poison the pie." Daniel closed the file. "If that's their plan, we need evidence, not assumptions." Michael looked at Sophia. "Will you help me?" She didn't hesitate. "Of course." For the next 3 days, detectives quietly installed hidden cameras around the Carter estate. Every phone call was recorded. Every visitor was photographed. Meanwhile, Victoria behaved as if nothing had changed. She laughed. She smiled. She even hugged Margaret before leaving one afternoon. Watching the surveillance footage later that night, Detective Harris spoke quietly. "People who betray strangers are dangerous. But people who betray family are capable of almost anything." Saturday was only 48 hours away, and someone was already preparing the final move. Saturday arrived beneath a cloudless Florida sky. The Carter estate overlooked the sparkling waters of Tampa Bay, decorated with white roses and elegant tables for Margaret's 70th birthday. Guests began arriving shortly before noon. Business partners, old friends, neighbors. Everyone smiled. Only Sophia knew someone among them might be planning murder. Detectives blended into the crowd, posing as caterers, photographers, and waiters. Tiny cameras watched every entrance. Margaret spent most of the morning in the kitchen. "My cranberry pie has to be perfect," she laughed. "It's Michael's favorite." Sophia stayed beside her. "I'll help." Just then Victoria walked in carrying a gift basket. "You've been cooking all morning," she said sweetly. "Let me finish the pie while you greet your guests." Margaret smiled. "That's thoughtful." Sophia immediately stepped forward. "I've already promised to help." For a split second, Victoria's eyes flashed with irritation. "It was only a suggestion." She placed the basket on the counter and left. 20 minutes later, Margaret received a phone call. One of the guests had become lost and needed directions. "I'll only be a minute," she said, hurrying outside. Sophia continued decorating the pie alone. Then she heard footsteps behind her. She turned. Richard Hayes stood in the doorway. "I was looking for Margaret," he said casually. "She'll be right back." Richard smiled politely. "No problem." He walked away. Something felt wrong. Sophia looked down at the pie. Everything seemed normal. Yet instinct told her not to trust it. Without saying a word, she quietly exchanged the finished pie with an identical one prepared earlier by the catering staff. No one noticed. Especially not the man watching the kitchen through the dining room window. Ryan Brooks. Hidden beneath sunglasses and a delivery driver's uniform, he smiled to himself. Everything, he believed, was finally falling into place. Ryan waited patiently outside. From the parking area, he had a clear view through the kitchen windows. He watched Sophia finish decorating the cranberry pie. Then he saw Margaret return. "Perfect," he smiled. Neither of them realized the pie had already been switched. Inside the house, Detective Harris quietly adjusted the tiny earpiece hidden beneath his collar. "All units stay alert. No arrests until we have the exchange on camera." The birthday lunch began. Guests applauded as Margaret stood to thank everyone. "I've been blessed with wonderful friends. And an incredible son." Michael hugged her as everyone clapped. Then came dessert. Sophia carried both pies into the dining room. Margaret proudly sliced what everyone believed was her homemade cranberry pie. Victoria watched closely. Richard barely blinked. Ryan, still outside pretending to unload boxes from a delivery van, checked his watch. 3 minutes. That was how long Richard had claimed the poison would need. Michael accepted the first slice. "So does Aunt Victoria," he smiled. "You should have the second piece." Victoria froze. "Oh, I'm actually not hungry." "Nonsense," Margaret laughed. "You always loved my baking." She placed a generous slice onto Victoria's plate. Richard suddenly stood. "I'll pass too." Michael looked directly at him. "Really? I thought cranberry pie was your favorite." The room became strangely quiet. Detective Harris slowly entered through the patio door. "So, nobody wants dessert?" Victoria's hands began shaking. Richard pushed his chair back. "I think we've stayed long enough." "No," Harris replied calmly. "I think you'll stay." At that exact moment, Ryan noticed 2 unmarked police SUVs turning into the driveway. His smile vanished. He sprinted toward the delivery van. Before he reached the driver's door, officers surrounded him from every direction. "Ryan Brooks, federal agents. Don't move." The laboratory results arrived less than 2 hours later. Detective Harris placed the report on the dining room table. "The pie contained enough digitalis to stop an adult heart within minutes." Margaret slowly covered her mouth. "My own sister." Victoria began crying harder. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." Richard glared at her. "Shut up." But it was too late. The detectives had already recorded everything. Ryan was escorted into the house in handcuffs. When he saw Sophia standing beside Michael, he stopped walking. "You?" Sophia met his eyes without fear. "I wondered if we'd ever meet again." Ryan laughed bitterly. "You always were lucky." "No," she answered calmly. I just finally met honest people. Detective Harris opened another folder. We've reopened the fraud case from 6 years ago. Ryan's smile disappeared. What? The financial records tell a different story now. We found forged signatures, hidden offshore accounts, and witnesses who finally decided to cooperate. Sophia felt as though the room had disappeared around her. Does that mean? Harris nodded. Your conviction is being overturned. You were framed. Tears filled Sophia's eyes. For 6 long years she had dreamed of hearing those words. Now they felt almost unreal. Ryan stared at her in disbelief. No. That case was finished. It is now, Harris replied. Officers led Ryan, Victoria, and Richard towards separate patrol cars. As Ryan reached the front steps, he turned back one last time. This isn't over. Michael stepped between him and Sophia. It is for you. The patrol car doors slammed shut. Their convoy disappeared down the palm line driveway. For the first time in years, Sophia stood beneath the Florida sun without carrying the weight of someone else's crime. And she realized that freedom wasn't simply walking out of prison. Sometimes, freedom began the moment the truth was finally believed. 3 months later, the Florida Court of Appeals officially cleared Sophia's name. Every conviction was erased. Every financial charge was dismissed. The judge called it one of the most carefully organized fraud schemes the state had seen in years. News stations covered the story for days. The headlines read, "Businesswoman wrongfully imprisoned after elaborate family scam." Reporters camped outside the Carter estate. Sophia declined every interview. I've spent enough years living in the past, she told Michael. I'd rather build a future. Margaret recovered quickly after the arrest. Without constant stress, her health improved almost every week. One sunny afternoon, she invited Sophia into her study. Stacks of legal papers covered the desk. I've made a decision. Sophia looked confused. Margaret smiled warmly. You once lost everything because you trusted the wrong people. I'd like to help you trust again. She slid a folder across the table. Inside were ownership documents. Half of Carter Coastal Properties had been transferred into Sophia's name. Sophia's eyes widened. I can't accept this. You can. And you will. I already have enough, Margaret said. What I don't have is a daughter. Sophia couldn't hold back her tears. For most of her life, she had searched for a family. Now one had quietly found her. Just then Michael entered the room. I hope I'm not interrupting. Margaret laughed. Actually, I think I've finished my part. She stood and walked toward the door. As she passed Michael, she whispered loudly enough for Sophia to hear. Don't keep that poor woman waiting forever. Michael turned bright red. Mom! The door closed behind her. Silence filled the room. Sophia couldn't stop smiling. Neither could Michael. For the first time since they met, neither of them was thinking about the past. The weeks turned into months. Sophia slowly returned to the business world, though nothing about her life resembled the one she had lost. She no longer cared about luxury. Peace had become far more valuable. With Margaret's guidance, she helped modernize Carter Coastal Properties, transforming it into one of Florida's fastest-growing real estate firms. Employees respected her because she listened before making decisions. Michael often watched her from his office window. You've changed this company, he admitted one evening. Sophia smiled. No, I think this company changed me. Before he could answer, the receptionist knocked on the door. Miss Bennett, there's someone here asking for you. Sophia frowned. I wasn't expecting anyone. Outside stood 2 young women. Both were in their early 20s. One had long blonde hair. The other wore glasses and nervously twisted the strap of her handbag. Sophia recognized them instantly. Emma, Chloe, Ryan's daughters. For several seconds, none of them spoke. Finally, Emma whispered, "We weren't sure you'd want to see us." Sophia felt tears forming. "You've both grown so much." Chloe lowered her eyes. "We found out everything after Dad was arrested. He lied to us. Our whole lives." Emma stepped forward. "We believed you abandoned us. But it was him. He told us you stole from our family." Sophia couldn't find the words. Chloe opened her purse and carefully removed an old photograph. It showed 4 smiling people at a beach on Florida's Gulf Coast. Ryan, the girls, and Sophia. "You kept it?" Sophia asked softly. Emma nodded. "We never stopped hoping you were okay." Sophia embraced both young women. Years of pain seemed to melt away in that single moment. Sometimes, love survived even the biggest lies. And family wasn't always defined by blood. A year later, the Carter estate looked very different. Laughter echoed through the gardens almost every weekend. Emma and Chloe visited often, refusing to let the past define their relationship with Sophia. Margaret adored having a busy house again. One evening, everyone gathered on the terrace overlooking Tampa Bay as the sun dipped below the horizon. Michael quietly slipped away from the table. Sophia noticed. "Where are you going? Come with me." Curious, she followed him down a small wooden path leading to the private dock. The bay shimmered with shades of gold and orange. A gentle breeze carried the scent of saltwater and blooming jasmine. Michael stopped at the end of the dock. "I've rehearsed this speech 100 times. Sophia laughed. "That's unusual for a CO. I'm much better with business meetings. Not moments like this." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Sophia's heart began racing. "When I first met you, I admired your kindness. Then I learned about your strength. And eventually, I realized I couldn't imagine my life without you." He opened the box. Inside rested a simple platinum ring. No diamonds. "You once told my mother that honesty was more valuable than expensive things. So I chose something simple, but real." Michael took a deep breath. "Sophia Bennett, will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes before she could answer. For years, she had believed happiness belonged to other people, that someone with her past could never deserve a future. Now she understood how wrong she had been. She smiled through her tears. "Yes. Of course, yes." As Michael slipped the ring onto her finger, applause erupted behind them. Margaret, Emma, Chloe, and several close friends had quietly followed. Margaret wiped away a tear and laughed. "I knew she'd say yes." For the first time in many years, Sophia looked toward the future without fear. 6 months after the wedding, life finally felt ordinary. For Sophia, that was the greatest gift of all. She and Michael had moved into a beautiful waterfront home just outside Tampa, where every morning began with coffee on the porch overlooking the bay. Margaret often joked that the house was too quiet without grandchildren. "You two are keeping me waiting," she teased. Sophia would simply laugh. "You'll have to be patient." Business flourished under their leadership. Instead of chasing profits alone, they created programs that helped former inmates rebuild their lives. Many companies refused to hire people with criminal records. Sophia remembered exactly how that felt. "We all deserve a second chance," she told the board of directors. "Sometimes that's all it takes to change a life." One afternoon, an unexpected visitor arrived. Detective Harris stepped into Michael's office carrying a thick folder. "I thought you'd want to hear this in person." Sophia immediately sensed something serious. "What happened?" Harris placed several photographs on the desk. Ryan Brooks, older, thinner, wearing a prison uniform. He accepted a plea agreement. Michael folded his arms. "So that's it?" "Not exactly. Harris opened another document. Ryan has agreed to testify against several financial crime organizations operating across Florida. Sophia looked surprised. Why would he do that? He claims he's tired of running. There was a long silence. Finally, Harris added, before sentencing, he asked to deliver a personal letter. He handed Sophia a sealed envelope. She stared at it without moving. For years, she had dreamed of hearing Ryan apologize. Now that the opportunity had arrived, she wasn't sure she even wanted to know what he had to say. Sophia carried the unopened letter home. It remained on the kitchen table for 3 days. Each time she walked past it, she felt the same knot in her stomach. Finally, Margaret poured 2 cups of tea and gently pushed the envelope toward her. You don't have to read it. I know. But if I don't, I'll always wonder. With trembling hands, Sophia broke the seal. The letter was surprisingly short. Sophia, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. Everything I told you was a lie except one thing. I did admire your kindness. I simply loved money more than I loved anyone. Prison gives a man too much time to think. Every day I remember the moment they took Emma and Chloe away from you. They cried for you. I still hear them. That's my punishment. I hope one day you stop remembering me as the man who ruined your life. Because, strangely enough, you became the only truly good thing I ever had. Ryan. The room remained silent after Sophia finished reading. She folded the letter carefully. Michael looked at her. How do you feel? Sophia stared through the window at the calm waters of Tampa Bay. I thought I'd feel satisfaction. I don't. I just feel free. Without another word, she carried the letter to the fireplace. The flame slowly consumed every page. She watched until nothing remained but gray ash. Michael wrapped an arm around her shoulders. No regrets? Sophia smiled softly. My story doesn't belong to him anymore. It hasn't for a long time. Outside, the evening sun painted the Florida sky in shades of orange and pink. For the first time since Ryan entered her life, his name no longer had the power to hurt her. The past had finally become exactly what it was meant to be. The past? 3 years later, the Florida sun poured through the windows of the Carter family home, filling every room with warm golden light. Laughter echoed from the backyard. Little Ethan raced across the lawn with his older sister Lily, while Emma and Chloe chased them with bubbles floating through the air. Margaret watched everything from the porch, smiling. I used to think I'd spend my last years alone, she whispered. Sophia gently squeezed her hand. So did I. Inside the house, framed photographs lined the hallway. One showed Sophia graduating from business school. Another captured her wedding to Michael. A third showed the entire family on Clearwater Beach at sunrise. There were no photographs of Ryan. No reminders of the years stolen from her. Only the life she had rebuilt. Michael stepped onto the porch carrying 2 cups of coffee. The board approved the new foundation today. Sophia smiled. The Second Chance Foundation? He nodded. It will provide legal aid, housing, and jobs for people who were wrongfully convicted or trying to rebuild their lives. Sophia looked toward the children playing beneath the palm trees. If even one person avoids what I went through, it will be worth everything. Just then Ethan ran toward her. Mom! He wrapped his tiny arms around her legs. Come play with us. Sophia laughed. I'm coming. Before she joined the children, she looked once more toward the sparkling waters of Tampa Bay. Years earlier, she had believed her life had ended on a rain-soaked bench outside a hospital. Almost her hope. Yet life had quietly proved something she never imagined. Sometimes the darkest chapter is not the end of the story. Sometimes it is simply the page before everything changes. Sophia took Michael's hand. Together they walked across the bright green lawn toward the children waiting for them. The Florida breeze carried laughter through the air. For the first time in her life. The end.